In this week's news edition, Victoria opens its 491 sponsorship doors. The new core skilled occupation list is coming soon. Who are our new assistant immigration ministers? Chinese students targeted in the continuing student visa cap saga, and how the UK government is rolling out the welcoming mat for international students. Hi, I'm Karl Konrad and welcome to Australian Immigration News, proudly brought to you by Australian Immigration Law Services, the company I founded more than 25 years ago right here in the heart of Sydney. This week, Victoria opened its registration of interest program for its 491 sponsorship allocations, including those living outside of Australia. For those in Australia, you must be living and working in regional Victoria, although there is no set time limit for this to take place. There are no minimum hours of work required, but they must be in skilled employment. Skilled employment includes any role that is at skill level 1, 2 or 3 in the relevant ANSCO classifications. If you're not working or working in a non-skilled employment, you will not be eligible to apply for nomination. For those who are living overseas, you can register your interest in the 491 visa. However, they are prioritising offshore applicants with skills in healthcare, social services and education, including early childhood. It was interesting that after the 491 ROI process opened, many who lodged their 190 ROIs received this email from Live in Victoria. It states, "We are also pleased to let you know that in this program year, Victoria's allocation for the Skilled Work Regional Visa subclass 491 has increased to 2,000 places, offering more opportunities for skilled migrants to live and work in regional Victoria." This does give the impression, though, that perhaps because they have so many 190 ROIs on hand now, they are hinting to people there are more chances in the 491 program to receive an invitation. The obvious problem is, of course, you need to be living and working in regional Victoria to qualify. Is it worth it then to move regional when Victoria opened the 491 pathway to those in Melbourne previously? A difficult question to answer, but many people will just end up staying put for now, I guess. So this leaves New South Wales and Queensland as the last states in Australia to open its sponsorship program. Now we can understand Queensland, for the Premier says his state is too full of migrants, but why the delay in New South Wales? Stay tuned and we'll keep you posted when anything changes. The new core skilled occupation list is coming soon. Professor Barney Glover, the head of Jobs and Skills Australia, has finalised their draft core and skilled occupation list. At the National Press Club recently, he confirmed the handover to the federal government had taken place.
And we also, just recently, we've submitted to government for their consideration what will become, subject to government consideration, the core skilled occupation list, which is replacing the former skilled migration occupation list. So this is an important way.
Is it just a change in name?
No. Well, actually, no, it's not a change of name. In fact, it's quite a significant shift in the migration strategy, which is not only looking at what are the occupations in shortage. This is for temporary employer-sponsored migration.
Right.
There are no caps in the employer-sponsored migration. Not only does it look at the challenges around shortages, but it also takes into account, we're being asked to take into account, employment outcomes. So in other words, if people come into those occupations in shortage, are the employment outcomes positive or not? If they're not, we need to consider carefully what's happening in those employment areas rather than necessarily move to skill migration. So we are providing that advice. We have a role to play. We're very interested in how migration interacts with the skills shortage in Australia. That's a priority for JSA.
As mentioned, this new list of occupation relates only to the temporary resident employer-sponsored visas. These visas have no caps or quotas. Stay tuned, we will let you know when more is known about the occupations that have gained the final approval from the government. So who is actually steering the Department of Home Affairs juggernaut? According to the Home Affairs Minister Tony Burke, he has a team of 5 looking after the portfolio.
When I introduced you, I described the size of the portfolio that you're now responsible for. Given how complex this immigration portfolio is and everything that you've just been talking about, isn't it a portfolio that requires a dedicated minister who is only focused on that?
Well, I'm really glad you put that to me, because one of the things that's been missed in some of the commentary is effectively across the portfolio we've gone from a team of 2 to a team of 5.
However, when we search the Department of Home Affairs website, we can only find 4. Tony himself, Jenny McAllister, who is the Minister for Emergency Management, 2 assistant ministers will look after the Immigration Department, Matt Thistlethwaite and Julian Hill. Of course, we have been looking at the backgrounds of these 2 assistant immigration ministers, and most importantly, what have they publicly said since being sworn into office on the 29th of July. We are searching for signs of leadership potential and how they may make their own mark in this critical portfolio. For Julian, there were no ministerial media releases to find. However, we were impressed with his 2 Facebook page posts highlighting the independent days of India and Pakistan. On the 14th of August, he posted this video message.
Very best wishes to all Australians of Pakistani heritage who are celebrating today the anniversary of the birth of Pakistan as a sovereign state.
And then on the next day, this one.
A very happy Indian Independence Day to all Australians of Indian heritage.
However, these very special days for both countries seem to be rated at the same level as, and wait for it, International Cat Day. On the 8th of August, he posts Happy International Cat Day, and it was interesting how he spends some of his valuable time. It's really hard to get pictures of cats yawning, so this took time. So what has our other Assistant Immigration Minister been up to regarding immigration matters since he took office? Well, he started to get a few media interviews under his belt, which is to his credit, and according to his Facebook, he is also busy preparing for the Welcoming the Babies event on the 20th of September. So, if you want to meet the Minister and raise your important concerns about why your Australian citizen baby born in Australia cannot keep their temporary resident parents in Australia with them, then head on down to Kensington Park before lunch. And while you've got him cornered, ask him why your minister intervention request has been sitting in the minister's office for more than 2 years and no action taken. But if you miss him, you might find him down at the local nursery.
Digigrow down here at La Perouse Public School. Come down and grab some native species, but most importantly, learn a little about Indigenous culture in our community.
And of course, what politician doesn't want to get their picture taken with famous Olympic medalists, as well as babies? As many of our viewers would note, we have long complained about the lack of transparency in the Department of Immigration. Well, we are not alone in that feeling. A Freedom of Information request demonstrated that the Western Australian government made a submission to the Immigration Minister then, Andrew Giles, highlighted the need for more transparency in the visa processing arrangements. In the submission, the WA government said, to assist jurisdictions in planning accurate and timely programs, the DHA must also provide regular, contemporary and detailed data around its prospective visa applicant pipelines, including how processing priorities are being implemented. In other words, those who are perplexed and annoyed by the manner which the Immigration Department processes visas and then frustrated by the lack of information available are not alone. The FOI documents also revealed a personal letter from the WA Premier to the then Immigration Minister Andrew Giles to lift the number of allocated places for the WA 491 and 190 visa program. The letter states, for the 2024 to 25 year program, here the Western Australian Government also requests 10,000 places. Well, we all know how that request turned out, significantly less than what was sought. However, in the usual government spin on a bad result, the WA media release stated on the 1st of July, following successful negotiations with the Commonwealth Government Department of Home Affairs, Western Australia will be allocated 5,000 state-nominated migration places for the 2024 to 25 program year. One can only judge when politicians speak publicly of successful negotiations, they mean that privately one side received a slap in the face. Now the news regarding the continuing student visa cap saga. The Australian reported this week that Chinese students were to be particularly targeted. The headline reads, New caps to target Chinese university students. The article reports that the Education Minister, Jason Clare, is aiming to set more than 1,000 separate caps on the number of international students enrolled in every university. It states, the new limits will aim to siphon Chinese students out of the wealthier sandstone city universities and funnel more foreigners into smaller and regional unis. The regional universities, of course, began drooling at this prospect of receiving thousands of keen Chinese nationals to study in their regions. However, it didn't take long before a subsequent article appeared and saying, Chinese students pushed to regions will choose US, UK, says Sydney University. The article states, the University of Sydney says international students will shun regional universities and instead choose top institutions in other countries if the federal government follows through on caps aimed to siphon Chinese students into smaller regional schools. Well, of course, the University of Sydney would say that, with probably the highest percentage of Chinese international students on its campuses. But of course, they do have a point, particularly now that the new Labour government in the UK is trying to woo international students with open arms. The UK has the very opposite approach to Australia and no doubt trying to cash in on Australia's harshness. In a recent speech given by the Secretary of State of Education, Bridget Phillipson, she said, and for too long international students have been treated as political footballs, not valued guests. Their fees welcomed, but their presence resented. Exploited for cheap headlines, not cherished for all they bring to our communities. This government will take a different approach and we will speak clearly. Be in no doubt international students are welcome in the UK. This government values their contribution to our universities, to our communities and to our country. Let me just read again this important point. Their fees welcomed but their presence resented. The Australian government behaviour should follow suit as this UK example and in addition do the honourable thing, stand up and acknowledge their mistakes and apologise to international students. And to begin with, they should overturn that discriminatory decision denying those 36 and over their rights to their planned 485 graduate visa to start with. This country should be ashamed of its behaviour and the international students should think about going to the UK instead of here. Well, that's enough for 1 week to report on. Thanks for joining the program, especially for all our loyal viewers out there, and we much appreciate your continued support. As always, take care out there and I'll see you next time, so bye for now.